guys for tuning in another episode with Cooking with Carmen. So today I have for you, we're going to do a veggie style type omelet today.
And later on, I'm going to show you how to make my crunchy style French toast.
Ingredients are going to include, you have your spinach and also your goat cheese. Now the goat cheese is optional. You do have that option to use feta or whichever one that you like. But today we're going to go with the goat cheese. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So first you're going to need 3 eggs. And then you're going to need heavy whipping cream. So we're going to go ahead and add the heavy whipping cream in on the inside of here. You don't want to add too much because too much will make your egg white. So we want to make sure we continue to have that yellow color for it to look like how it's supposed to. Second, we're going to go ahead and add in a little kosher salt. So just be careful with your salt, just enough to season it there. And then we're going to go ahead and add your cracked black pepper. And you can put as much as you like. Some people like a lot of pepper, some don't, so it's totally up to you. So we're going to go ahead and give this a whisk. So now that we have that done, we're going to go ahead and turn our eye on your skillet. And you want to put it at a medium temperature. You don't want it too high because we don't want our eggs to burn, because your eggs will easily burn. So as that's heating up, we're going to go ahead and add your extra virgin olive oil in there. So you don't want to add too much. You want just enough to kind of cover your pan just a little bit. So I would probably say to probably start out with maybe a teaspoon, possibly. I'm gonna add just a little bit more to coat that bottom. So here we have our spinach that's already chopped up. So what we're gonna go ahead and do is actually go ahead and saute this spinach and break it down just a little bit. So when we get ready to pour our egg mixture, the spinach is already in there and it's broken down. So just keep in mind that spinach shrinks. So if you want a lot of spinach in your omelet, then you can always add a whole lot more. So what I'm going to actually do now is go ahead and pour in the egg mixture. And I'm going to spread this spinach out just a little bit more. Okay. So now that we have the egg in here, you just want to make sure you take your skillet and circle that around. That's very important when you're doing an omelet. You want to thin that out as much as possible. So if you can see on the sides around here how the egg is building up. So you just kind of want to continue to do that, let it sit for a little bit. And you just want to continue to do that back and forth. Kind of move that around. So as the egg begins to set, it's actually going to fluff up. So once it starts to fluff, once it gets to a certain point, then that's when we get ready to go ahead and flip that egg over. Just continue to do that in a circular motion. Just remember, keep in mind you don't want to get the egg too high around your rim, because that's going to make it a little tough for you to flip that over. Right? So now that our omelet has set, we're actually going to go ahead and flip this over so it can cook on the other side. So you want to be really careful with this because it'll break easily. So it's kind of hard to recover once your omelet breaks, but I mean it's still edible, so you'll be fine. Okay, so now that we have this, we flipped it over, so now we're going to go ahead and add the ingredients on the inside. So we're going to add our tomato here. And you can always add anything that you want. Basically an omelet is like a canvas, a blank canvas. So you can fill it in and put whatever that you want in there. If you want mushrooms, if you want olives. I mean, the choice is up to you. So we're gonna go ahead and add our goat cheese inside of the omelet. And then what we're gonna do, because it doesn't take long once you've already flipped it over, so you definitely wanna make sure that you are watching it. So you have two choices, that you can either fold it completely over in half, or you can fold it in two halves. So what I like to do, you don't touch the food like I do. I'm used to that. So what you can do is just pull that over just like that. And now that omelet is actually ready to come out because it has already cooked. Yep. Let's get a tighter fold in there. Go ahead and turn your eye off. So now that the omelet is ready, you can just slide it on out. So now what we're gonna do is add our cheese on top here. And I'm actually using sharp cheddar because I like the bite. I like to use different various blends of cheese, but we're gonna go with cheddar today. We're gonna let that, and that's gonna melt down from the heat from the omelet. And then just to top it off with a little cilantro. If you wanna use parsley, you can. Then we're gonna add a little bit more tomatoes at the top. And there you are, now your omelet is done.
So now that our omelet is complete, we're gonna move on to the crunchy French toast.
So now we're gonna get ready to go into our sauce that we're gonna put at the bottom of our crunchy French toast. So you wanna start out with mascarpone cheese. So mascarpone cheese is just an Italian cream cheese. It's real light. You can actually use it it's typically used for like desserts. It's almost based on like a cream cheese. It's a lot lighter, smoother. So we're gonna go ahead and get started with that. So here I have the mascarpone. We have a vanilla bean. Actual vanilla bean. So with the vanilla bean, this is always optional, but I like to use vanilla bean in certain dishes. It gives it a little bit more vanilla flavor, and then also you have those seeds in there, so that gives you that look like when you see vanilla bean ice cream, those little black dots. That's where that is where this comes from. Tongue-tied. So here we're going to go ahead and start here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and cut this bean. So like I said, vanilla beans they're a little pricey, so it's always optional. If you don't want to purchase the vanilla bean, you always have the option to use vanilla extract. Okay, so I love Adams. Adams, are you watching? I use this all the time, so I don't like any other vanilla but this one here. It gives a real good flavor. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut this bean. So you just want to be really careful as you cut down in the center of it. You don't want to cut off too far down, because if you split the bean, cut it in completely half, it's going to make it a little difficult to get the seeds out. So you just want to take that and open that up. Sometimes it can be a little tough to work with, just depends. So if you see on the inside, you can see those black dots. So you just want to take a spoon and just run it down, open it up in there. You just want to run that down and get all of that out. So this is what it should look like. So we're going to go ahead and add that in there. You want to make sure you scrape all of that out, get all of that vanilla bean out of there. That's all your flavor. Got a little extra on the plate. Like I said, we want to use every last drop of that vanilla bean. So now that we have the vanilla bean in there, we're gonna go ahead and add a little honey. So this honey is gonna help it break down. It's gonna give you, it's gonna be a little sweetener. I wouldn't necessarily use sugar or brown sugars. Any type of sugar is actually gonna break it down and make the consistency real thin, so we don't wanna do that. But I mean, if you want it thin, then go for it. So you want to go ahead and mix that up real good. So as you see, you can go ahead, as you can see, you see the speckles of the vanilla bean that's in there. So I'm gonna add a little bit more honey because I definitely want that to have a smoother consistency. So now what I'm going to do is add cardamom. So cardamom is a Middle Eastern spice, and basically what it is, it has like a chai flavor, a vanilla flavor, but it's really good. So I like to use this in a lot of my sauces if I'm making something that's sweet. It is a little pricey, so you're probably saying, Carmen, use everything that's spicy, pricey. So, but I don't know, is there an alternate option for this? I don't think there's an alternate option for cardamom. So you got a choice, either you want to use it or not. So I'm just gonna add a little bit because this is really strong, so you don't want it to overpower. So I'm gonna say this is probably about 1/8 of a teaspoon that I'm putting in here. And we're gonna go ahead and get that mixed up. And I want this to break down just a little bit more, so I'm gonna add a little heavy whipping cream in there, just a tad. You don't wanna add too much. And if you don't have heavy whipping cream, you can also use milk. I wouldn't recommend almond milk or anything like that. Just use regular milk. Nothing less than 2%, I would say. So give that a taste. That's good. Real good. So actually what I've just done was I put the mascarpone in a little personal skillet, and we're gonna let it sit in the oven for a little bit, just kind of break down just a little bit. We want it to be kind of like a creamy sauce, kind of melted, not completely melted, but just a better breakdown. And we're getting ready to go into the crunchy French toast. So what you're gonna need is some crunchy cereal. You have the option to use Rice Krispies if you want, but actually here I actually have the flakes from Special K. I just pulled out all the strawberries. We don't want to use those strawberries that's in there because once we coat it in the French toast, it's going to burn, so we don't want burned strawberries. So like I said, you have the option to use any type of crunchy cereal that you want to use. If you want to use Frosted Flakes, you know, add it a little, give it a little bit more sweetness, that's totally up to you, but there are several different ways. So what I'm gonna go ahead and do is go ahead and crunch this. So you just wanna take your hand and just make sure you crunch that up really good, because that's gonna coat your bread. I made a little mess, but that's okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and add these on a plate here because we want this to be flat, because once we get our bread dipped into our egg mixture, we're gonna lay that on top of here. So now we have French toast. I'm sorry, we have Texas toast. So you want to use something a little thicker bread. I wouldn't necessarily, if you want to use regular sandwich bread, that's fine, but you really want something that's going to be a thicker slice of bread, or you can also use brioche bread. Brioche is something that's a little bit sweeter, but it's also thick and it's really good. So you do have those two options as well. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is grab my eggs. And in our egg mixture, we're actually going to add some spices in there because we're going to flavor this up. So flavor is very important when you're cooking. So you want to make sure that you have all sorts of flavors in your food because we don't want bland food, right? So what we're going to go ahead and add first is, I always start with my whipping cream a lot of the times. Why? There's no specific reason, that's just what I'm comfortable with doing. So I'm gonna go ahead and add that in there. So also just remember, you don't wanna add too much in there, just enough. So I would probably say this was probably maybe about maybe a third of a cup, possibly. And what I'm gonna go ahead and do now is add, I'm gonna add my smoked cinnamon, okay? Once again, you have to remember when you're cooking, there's always several different options. So if you don't have access to smoked cinnamon, you can always use regular cinnamon. But the smoked cinnamon, it does give off a sweeter flavor. So everything is always optional. Always remember that when you are cooking. So I'm just gonna add a little pinch in there. You don't wanna add too much cinnamon in there because it's gonna darken up your mix. So you wanna be really careful with that. And then you wanna also add nutmeg. Have nutmeg that's in here. So nutmeg is a powerful spice, so just kinda, you wanna add just a little bit. I would probably say you wanna start out with 1/8 of a teaspoon. And then we're gonna add a little sugar. So we don't want it too sweet, but just a little bit to kinda sweeten up the mix, but not too sweet. And we don't want it sugary. Okay. And then we're gonna have our Adam's vanilla extract in there. So add a little bit. I'm always generous with my vanilla. I just feel that it gives a lot of flavor, but you can also always start off with a teaspoon. But like I said, I'm very generous. I love this extract. I buy it by the gallons. So we're just gonna go ahead and give that a mix. And then what I'm going to do is transfer this egg mixture into a bowl, because you want to make sure that your bowl is wide enough so that way as you dip in your bread you don't have any issues. You don't want your bread folding up or anything like that, because we want to make sure that our bread stays intact. So before I dip this in here, I'm going to use a griddle. A griddle is not mandatory. You can also do it in a non-stick skillet, either way. But you don't need to add any butter or anything like that if it's non-stick. Now if you don't have a skillet or anything that's not non-stick, then you might want to add maybe just a little bit of butter, but not too much, because you got to keep in mind that as you have butter on the heat, it begins to burn. So we don't want our butter to burn. So let's go ahead and get started. And we're gonna dip our bread into the mixture. So you just wanna take it in there. You don't wanna submerge it, because then you'll have soggy bread. That's gross. So you just wanna take that in there. You just wanna flip that, make sure it's coated really good. So on my griddle, I have it set to, I believe, 300 degrees. So we're just gonna lay that on there like that. You're just gonna repeat that process. However many slices of bread that you wanna use, then you go for it. So your hands are gonna get a little dirty. Don't be scared. So as you can see how it already looks fancy. It ain't even done yet. So I'm definitely a big believer in presentation. I think that is key. Everybody doesn't always think so, but of course, you know, you got to keep in mind, we always eat with our eyes first, right? So the prettier the plate is, the more attention it's going to get. So when you get ready to do your French toast and you invite your guests over, they're not going to believe that you actually did that. And that's what you want to do. You want to give them that wow factor. So now that we have our French toast on the griddle, we've already flipped them over. So you just want to make sure you cook them at least anywhere between 2 to 3 minutes. We don't want to overcook them. So as you see, I've already flipped these over here. So actually what you're looking for is a crispy crust. So if you can see here, this is what it actually needs to look like. So that's nice and golden brown, and it smells real heavenly. So I think that it's ready to come off. Let's check underneath. We'll give it a few more seconds. So this right here, this topping is really going to give you that extra added crunch in that French toast. So something a little different, adding textures. I believe in adding textures to food. I love textures. So just gives you something to look forward to towards every bite. So now that our French toast is actually done, I'm going to go ahead and take it off the griddle. It smells really, really, really good. You can definitely smell all the spices that's in there and the vanilla. That's why I love vanilla Adams. So I'm just going to place them on here, on this plate here. They are ready. Move that out of the way. So now we're getting ready to go into our plating. So we're going to use our personal skillets that we set aside earlier with our mascarpone mixture that's right there. And then what you're going to do is take your French toast, and there's no specific way that, let me get this out of the way so you guys can see it. There's no specific way, but I'm going to cut these up in triangles as much as possible. So I'm going to start on the edge, the outer edge first. Just kind of cut it like that. And then that middle piece, whoops, one fell. I'm going to eat this. Let me see. That's good. You don't even need syrup. I shouldn't talk with my mouth full. Sorry. All right, really good. You guys are going to enjoy this. Sorry, I'm still talking with my mouth full. But it's good, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and just cut a few pieces up. And while I'm doing that, I'm just gonna go ahead and add this in the sauce. So you just wanna just build up, okay? And like I said, you can cut this however you want. I like starting out in triangles. If you wanna cut them up in squares, that's optional. Remember, with cooking, everything is optional. So now that we've cut up our French toast in pieces, then we're gonna go ahead and add our berries into it. So we have a mixture of blueberries, blackberries, and strawberries. You can use any type of berry that you like. I would not recommend any fruit that's really juicy because you're gonna get your French toast soggy. So we're just gonna throw those pieces in there, that strawberry in there. Just place that in there. Blueberries, sprinkle that. Add a couple of blackberries in there. I'm gonna add a little bit more strawberries in there. Oops, we got a runaway berry. So we got one that's done. You just continue to do the same thing. Our crunchy French toast is done. It is completed. So now we have also our veggie omelet. So there is your breakfast. Your personalized special touch cooking with Carmen breakfast. This is how I feed my kids, and you can feed your family the same way. This is good. Yes.
So what's your favorite part? Ever eating it? This sounds like your favorite part. Talk about it. And you should get the sauce at the bottom, okay?
Oh yeah, the mascarpone. I want to find that. Hold on a second.
It's at the link.
Oh, you gave me so much. Wait a minute. Are we taping?
Yes, it's just okay. Yeah, it is.
I'm sorry. Okay. I really want to get the mascarpone. Oh, that is delicious. The vanilla. Yes, and the mascarpone. This is absolutely delicious. Cooking with Carmen. Yes, yes.
Oh wow, the spinach omelet. One of my favorites. I'm gonna try not to be greedy. Give me a minute. It tastes good and it's healthy for you. The goat cheese made it pop. Real good. Okay. Carmen did a great job on this. So please try Cooking with Carmen.